Welcome back to the Fantasy Flavor Podcast, where we spicing up your daily dose of fantasy football content. Join Dylan Thomas, Sanat Ansara, and Trenton Roberts as they provide you with player and team analysis, mock drafts, and one-on-one interviews. Hey, what's going on, Fantasy Flavor Podcast, YouTube channel, viewers, listeners? My name is Dylan Thomas. I'm super excited to have you here today, joining us here for a question and answer session here with some of our fellow co-hosts. What are your guys' names?
Hi, my name is Sanatan. You have been hearing me. First time you'll get to look at me.
Who doesn't love that face?
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm obviously not Sanatan, so I have to be Trenton.
Justin couldn't join us here tonight, unfortunately, but he's going to start pumping out some solo content for us. We're super excited for that. But what we are going to do here today is we're going to do a question and answer. Let's just jump right into it here with our first question from Chalupa Batman 33 and Sleeper. Thoughts on Brandon Cooks in Houston? How good of a move is this for him?
It has to be better than what it was before. Like there he was competing with two very good receivers. Like Cup and Woods both are very, very good. And if honestly in Houston, the number one job is there for the taking. He can go and grab the number one job. Will he do it? I'm not sure about that. How will he mesh with the offense? He'll because of this coronavirus, he'll not be able to learn the playbook, miss the OTAs and so many things. I'm not sure how it will impact in the longer run. In the longer run, it will all be good, but in immediate impact could be not be great. But yeah, it's better than what it was before.
Yeah, what do you think, Trent?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a perfect fit for him. With Watson, Watson's the quarterback that likes to scramble around and make plays outside of the pocket. That's exactly where Cooks excels, like getting open after the quarterback breaks the pocket, getting room for his quarterback. So I think he fits in perfectly with Watson's play style.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely a good move there for him. I think he could crack my top 30 wide receivers. I'm just worried about the concussions. Honestly,
No, but aren't you worried that Fuller has the same role as him?
I feel like they'll feature Cooks is better than Fuller. Maybe like a fully healthy Fuller, but it's just kind of like Cooks is really good. Let's not doubt Cooks. He's had like 5 1,000-yard seasons. How many has Fuller had? None. So the only concern for me, though,
he hasn't played more than 4 games.
Yeah, but exactly, Cooks is proven and good though. That's that is a knock on Fuller health. So I think as long as he does have a lot of concussions, one more concussion, I think he's Jordan Reed. So that's kind of my concern there for Cooks.
Could be, yeah.
Let's move on here to the next question from T. Lod, inspired on Sleeper. Does DeAndre Hopkins to Arizona hurt his fantasy value since he's switching teams with more competition and learning a new playbook in this current quarantine atmosphere?
Trenton, do you want to go first?
Yeah. If anything hurts his value, it's going to be more the quarantine. I've said it before on the podcast. I think that he is going to fit well with that team. His volume should remain the same, and his talent level is obviously the same. Production is going to remain about the same. The quarantine and learning the playbook is going to hurt, but that is an air raid offense. He's going to get a ton of targets. He might even get more targets than he did in Houston. And even if he doesn't catch as many, there's going to be enough volume that he's going to perform.
Yeah. I mean, I think year one it will be difficult, but starting from year two it will be same or even better. But year one it will be difficult because you already have Larry Fitzgerald there, Kirk is there, and then Kyler has some chemistry with them more than Hopkins. Hopkins again, as quarantine will impact all those players who are changing teams and the rookies. That is what I believe.
Yeah, definitely. It's just kind of like we've seen OBJ kind of struggle switching teams. The only guy I can think of recent memory, well, Brandon Cooks did it when he went to New England, but also kind of Amari Cooper. But Amari Cooper did kind of have like that half a year to get adjusted. So it's kind of rare for these lateral moves. Let's just move on though. So we definitely think it could trend more down, and you have a point there, T-Lot inspired. I feel like that's how we kind of are thinking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So our next question here is from Super Cooper FF on Reddit. It's a trade, okay? So Team 1 gets DeAndre Hopkins in the 112 rookie pick. Team 2 gets Chris Godwin, the 109, in the 209. This is a full PPR dynasty league, but the team receiving Chris Godwin already owns Mike Evans. How do we feel about this trade? Who wins?
I don't care about if the team already has Evans. In Dynasty, you always keep trading. You always make moves. So in the future, you might be able to trade Godwin or Evans. I think the Godwin side wins here because Godwin is what 3 years at least younger than Hopkins, and he has already proven last year what he could do, and that's not going anywhere with Brady. Yes, it will. I think it will go a little bit down than what it was with Winston, but still he will be great. And then he has that added 3-year advantage on Hopkins, and then you are getting the better pick, 109 instead of 112, and a second rounder, which in this year's class can give you a wide receiver too. So I think that's a pretty easy win for the Godwin side.
I'll let you go next, Dylan. I don't want you going last every time. I'll give you the chance to talk.
All right, thank you. It is close for me, but I don't like stacking wide receivers, but I do get Sanon's point of like trading. So I definitely would prefer the Godwin side. I also think the 109 to the 112 is a bigger jump than some will think in a one quarterback league. Just kind of looking at how my tiers, I think there's kind of like a clear top 9 I'd prefer. So I think you're
Yeah.
actually jumping up in a rookie pick tier there in a one quarterback league for me. How about you, Trent?
Yeah, I'd have to lean the Godwin side too. But the one thing that really threw it over the edge, I think Godwin and the move up from the 112 to the 19 is similar to D Hop and the 112. But the thing that throws it over is that second round pick, because this year is so deep that those guys you're going to get in the second round are going to come in and perform for your fantasy team. Some guy you could pick there could be a fantasy star. That's how deep this draft class is. So even those later round picks are going to be huge.
Yeah, well said there. Definitely a deep draft class here, especially for wide receiver. Let's move on here to the next question from friend of the show, friend of the podcast, Philly fan 206 on Sleeper. Could each person name one of their favorite buy lows? Let's start off with you, Trenton.
I'll have to go with Darius Geis. I mean, I know you guys love him, but he's just
I don't.
really injuries over the past 2 years. But I believe this is his breakout year. He's going to come back. He's going to stay healthy, and he's going to be a top 12, maybe top 8 back.
How about you,
Yeah,
Sanan?
for me, there are two. Basically, I think I'll name the one more who is cheaper. That's Paris Campbell from the Colts. I think he's dirt cheap right now. And what happened last year? He did not have a competent quarterback, and then he got injured in between. This year, he has a better quarterback who likes to throw, in the middle area. And I think Paris Campbell will get the slot role for the Colts. And Rivers is much more competent than Jacoby. So I think he can definitely do very good in that offense, and he's very very cheap. The other one is David Montgomery. I No one is taking the job from him this year or in the future. I think last year the offense was terrible. This year they will get better, and there will be more opportunities.
Yeah, so for me, my buy low would probably be a little more expensive than you guys just to mix up here. I really like Juju again this year. I think with Big Ben coming back, I think there's long-term concerns once he's gone. But Juju was incredible his sophomore year. What was it like? Over like 1,300, 1,400 yards, something ridiculous. And
1400 something, yeah.
1,400 something. I think he was a little low in the touchdown department 7, but he was tackled a lot inside of the 2-yard line. I remember that stat a lot. So he was incredible his sophomore year. His freshman year was also pretty good there for a rookie wide receiver. So Juju, he's
And 7
expensive.
touchdown is not enough, not very bad for wide receivers. Last year the top one was 10 touchdowns, so I think 7 is not bad.
Yeah, 7 isn't bad. There's upside there too, was kind of my point. So well said there. But so thank you for the question, Philly fan. We appreciate you supporting the show a lot. Let's move on here to our next question here from Paul_Ryan15 on Twitter. Who is the most overhyped fantasy player right now?
For me, it would be Devante Parker. I think
like
there
it.
are
I
a
like it.
lot of moving parts there. Um, I'm pretty sure that they'll get a quarterback. Fitzmagic might, start 3 games, 5 games. You never know when he will, start showing his signs of Jameis Winston and start throwing picks, and they will switch to the new quarterback. And what if the new quarterback doesn't have the same chemistry? The other thing is that Parker's targets, increased a lot after what was
Preston
the name of the
Williams.
rookie? Yeah, Preston Williams got hurt. So,
Mhm.
and he will be back. They will definitely add a wide receiver, or two, in fact. They will shore up their offense. I'm not that high on Parker. That others are. He might still pan out, but I think he's overhyped at this time.
How about you, Trenton?
Mhm. Mine is one that I know you guys like as well, so it's going to be harder for you. But Aaron Jones, that touchdown total from last year is unsustainable. He's that backfield is more of a committee. I mean, sure, he has great touchdown totals, and did great overall, but it still is a committee backfield, and those numbers are going to go down. He's not going to be that RB2 off of 16 touchdowns again. He's going as high as I think he's going like about around RB5, RB6
No,
in drafts right now.
not actually. He's not that hyped actually. I think he's going at his fair price. I think he's going around running back 10, 12, somewhere
It's
around
Mhm.
there.
still potentially round one though. So
Mhm.
No, not in Dynasty,
late,
not
late
round one.
first, late first. Yeah, 14-man league. I could see it.
Mhm.
I could see it.
I
Yep.
doubt he goes
Mhm.
before late second in Dynasty. I haven't
Okay.
seen that much.
Yeah.
In redraft, you are right.
Yeah.
But
Aaron Jones.
he's
Mhm.
still a guy I only
Yeah.
look at like
Yep, I agree.
I'd only look at a late third, early fourth because I
Yeah,
just think he regresses a lot this year.
Yeah, and they said they want to bring another running back too, so there may be less touches as
Mhm.
well. For me, I haven't been the biggest on this guy, and maybe I'm probably going to be proven wrong. I don't know. I'm not much of an Austin Eckler guy. Now, I think he's an incredible pass catcher, but he had such high touchdown efficiency, which I don't feel like pass catchers, unless you're Christian McCaffrey, who's way more than a pass catcher, have a lot of touchdowns, right? There's not many. That's not really what they do. They don't get many touchdowns. A lot of the touchdowns he had were like no, not sticky. So what I mean, where they're like
yeah,
outside the red zone. So big plays, very year to year to year. Like we even saw it with Saquon this year. He had a lot less touchdowns, and he's like the best at doing it. I think the other thing is I do think they could draft a rookie. They improved their offensive line, but Austin Eckler is still an undrafted guy, and we just saw Trent, for example, love Philip Lindsay. And Philip Lindsay has been great. Honestly, he's been great like throughout his entire NFL career. And they just replaced him with Melvin Gordon. Essentially, they gave Melvin Gordon a lot of money. So they don't care about these undrafted players. They have no commitment to them. It's just like a signing off the street, right? So Austin Eckler for me, I think his value is at his highest right now, and I try to sell him before the draft because I could see them bringing somebody in just to steal enough touches to lower that workload.
yep. And also the quarterback change.
That's true too. Philip Rivers targeted the running backs the most in the NFL last season.
Yeah.
Moving on here, we have a question from Vols Are Awesome 23 on Sleeper. Two-part question here. So let's just do the first part here first. Can each of you name one player that was the most hurt by a free agent signing?
Very easy. Philip Lindsay. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
toast. Gordon is going to take a lot of touches away from him. I think his value hurts the most, and I don't really need to give any explanation. It's just very obvious.
Yeah, I'll go next here,
Mhm.
actually. Jameis Winston. I know that's kind of a shocking one there, but Winston, like, even if we just talk about redraft here, he still had,
Mhm.
like, value. Like, because he's just going to keep slinging it. I feel like we all thought Jameis was going to stay in Tampa. So that's why I'm saying that. Like, I didn't see the Broncos signing Philip Lindsay. That's a great one. But for me, Jameis, kind of shocking that he isn't even signed yet either. That's kind of another factor there. How about you?
I want to merge my answer with the second part of the question
Okay. Okay.
because they're correlated.
All right, sure. So the second part of the question, we'll start it off with you then. Can you name one player that was helped the most by free agency?
So, player that was hurt the most, sure that it's not really hurt a ton, but I feel like his numbers and stuff overall drop. Mike Evans. Player that was helped the most, Chris Godwin. Tom Brady is that quarterback that throws short intermediate passes. When you look at that offense, Chris Godwin was the guy that was a short intermediate guy. He just cut across the field, got those little targets, and made something out of it. Mike Evans, they used more as their deep threat red zone guy. So with Tom Brady, he throws deep enough, but he's getting older and he doesn't throw deep all the time like you saw with Jameis Winston, who always aired it out. So I feel like it's Mike Evans is going to hand over the reins for at least this season to Chris Godwin as the clear wide receiver one on that offense.
Okay, we can debate about that. My answer is everyone in Arizona. Kyler Murray gets a huge bump. It also helps Drake because now they will not be able to. They were because of the scheme, anyways. They are not able to stack the box, but now even more. I think even the safety has to help over the top for Hopkins. So there will be a lot of attention on the pass catchers, and Drake will have at least open lanes for 5 yards, and then he has great burst to take it to the next level. So I think it will help him a lot, and Murray, of course.
Yeah, for me, it's actually Baker Mayfield. Baker really struggled, and part of that was coaching. Part of that was himself throwing really dumb Jameis level interceptions. But they brought in a right tackle, Jack Conklin. They brought in Austin Hooper, a pass catcher. Whether you think Austin Hooper's flashy or not, right? He's probably better than Njoku is. And keep in mind, they didn't get rid of Njoku. So it definitely, no matter what, helps him.
Yep.
Obviously, Kareem Hunt's going to be back now, too. I think the offensive line's going to help him out a lot. It could also help out Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, too. I feel like they draft a left tackle with the 11th overall pick, so I'm kind of including that. But for me, it's Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for the great question. Moving on here to Obi-Sean Kenobi 91 on Sleeper. A little bit of a long question in here. How do you guys view running backs like Ronald Jones, Darrell Henderson, Singletary, or quarterbacks like Jarrett Stidham, Tyrod Taylor, and Superflex? Guys who currently have the starting gig, right? They have the keys to the starting gig, but could also be replaced in the draft. Do you try to sell them while they have some value? Do you hold and let the cards kind of fall into your hands? Or do you buy them as kind of like a lottery ticket and hope that they increase in value after the draft?
Yeah, but I have different answers for everyone. I think for Henderson, I will hold him because I think he has the pass catching ability, and that can be very, very helpful even if it doesn't get the rushing job there. And for Ronald Jones, for Stidham, and who was the other quarterback? Tyrod.
Tyrod Taylor.
I think I'll sell those. I am definitely sure that they will get replaced, each one of them.
I don't think Stidham gets replaced, but that's just what I'm hearing for the
By
Patriots
next
beat
year,
reporters. I mean,
I don't think
fair.
it's the long-term answer.
Fair. I do think he gets the keys though, unlike some I could genuinely see like a Singletary getting replaced. What are you kind of thinking about this question, Trenton?
Hold Singletary and Henderson.
Yeah.
I think you move on from Rojo. But then Tyrod, you can either move or you can hold, up to you. But the real big question mark here is Stidham. I think that you hold until right after the draft because I feel like as soon as the draft is over, if the Patriots don't draft a quarterback, his value is going to skyrocket. But as of right now, people are thinking, like everybody's thinking, that the Patriots are going to go quarterback and that Stidham won't have that job. Everybody's like, the Patriots have to go quarterback. If they don't, his value skyrockets. But right now, it's pretty low as is. So you want to wait to see if it skyrockets, but I don't think it can go much lower than it already is.
Yeah, I'll kind of answer the question generally here. These two guys gave really good like specific answers to like those players here, but I don't know what Obi-Wan Kenobi meant. So like if I'm answering it like generally here, how I kind of view this is how good is my roster, right? Do I need, and how do you want to construct it? I'm gonna give you kind of like a team building philosophy here. Can you risk this player like just dropping in value, right? Like, so let's just pretend it's Devin Singletary here, sure. Devin Singletary, right? He could be really, really good if it's just him, but like if they draft somebody, his value just drops. So do you want to be safe and do you want to sell him while his value is still higher than it could be? and get something like maybe a more safe player back, whoever that might be. I don't really have my rankings in front of me, couldn't tell you, but or do you want to, if you do risk it, I mean, if you have already like a lot of depth, a good starting roster, maybe you can risk it, but it kind of depends on risk management. So I'm sorry that isn't really like a decisive answer, but you're the, whoever's watching this, anybody, you're you're the commissioner of your fantasy team, so it's ultimately up to you. Don't listen to us, right? But we're not your fantasy roster managers, so just keep that in the back of your head. It's your team, build it how you like. All right. Okay. Moving on here. We have a question from outside dash skirt on Reddit. Top 5 rookie rankings in a 1 quarterback league PPR. I can actually start it off. I haven't started one off yet. So my 101's Jonathan Taylor. Pre-draft here, just to keep that in mind. 102 is DeAndre Swift. 103 Cam Akers. 104 J.K. Dobbins. 105 CeeDee Lamb. And I feel pretty confident about that.
I have the same ranking except at 105 I might change it to Clyde Edwards-Helaire
I was
if he
thinking
lands.
about that.
Yeah, if he lands to a okay team, even I think he is very very good, and I definitely believe that running backs value increases after year one, and wide receivers value generally
Mm-hmm.
decreases or stays the same
Yeah.
after year one. So I would rather draft a running back and flip him after year one for that wide receiver and then some.
Okay, how about you, Trent? I feel like yours is gonna be way different. I'm excited for this.
It is.
AJ
It is.
Dillon.
But of course, all these names are going to flip after the draft, depending on landing spots.
Mm-hmm.
But my current top 5, just based off of talent and position, is Swift, Taylor. So those top 2 are the same, just flipped.
Okay.
And then my third is Jerry Jeudy.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth is the real curveball with Joe Burrow. I think he has that level of talent that even in a 1 QB league, he's going to be that good. And then my fifth is a toss up between J.K. Dobbins and Cam Akers.
Trenton never disappoints.
I'm throwing the spice into the fantasy podcast.
He adds some flavor.
I was thinking that he would say AJ Dillon, but Burrow is even more curveball than what he usually does.
Or is AJ Dillon there, man? 106.
Yeah. Anyways.
Jeez, I mean, yeah, Burrow, kind of shocking there. I wouldn't take a quarterback that early. I hope you're in all my leagues. Just saying.
He is.
Fortunately.
But he doesn't behave like that in our leagues.
I better see it come draft day. All right, from Kelly Boy 99 here on Sleeper, where would you take Jeudy and Lamb in a startup?
I would go around round 6.
Round 6.
Yeah.
How about you, Trent?
How about that?
I'd go round 5 for Jeudy and round 7 or 8 for CeeDee Lamb, because I've said before I'm not as high on CeeDee Lamb.
Okay. They're probably around like my wide receiver like 20-ish range.
Yeah.
Like wherever I had N'Keal Harry ranked, they're probably ranked similar. I'm a little higher in CeeDee Lamb than Harry, but I'm a little lower in Jeudy. So kind of like, I think he was like my 23. So kind of like that range. So I don't know what, it depends on how big the draft is. I'm not going to tell you around, because 10 man and 14 man, right? That could skew it around or two.
So I mean, Harry was going around round 7 last year in Superflex. I'm not sure about 1 QB, but if it is Superflex, then same thing. Late 6 and early 7, and Harry was like consensus number 1 last year, so he was even more higher. So again, late 6, round 7, then that is
that's how I feel. Thank you for helping me out with that. All right, moving on here to this isn't me. This person exists. Trying to assume the side eye here. And a question from DL Thomas 1212 on Twitter. Is the Burrow hype for real?
How is it not you?
Why not?
How is it not you?
My middle name starts with a K. This person's is an L, but they'll represent the 12, baby. I mean, let's start off with Trent here. Why is the Burrow hype real? I mean, you have your QB, 4th overall pick in a rookie draft, 1 QB, so.
Yeah, it's very real. He's had the most dominant quarterback season in college football history. I mean, you don't see that. He's going to come in and he's going to be very good. And he's also going to the Bengals, which is a team with a lot of great weapons already. And AJ Green, you have Tyler Boyd, who's pretty talented. You have John Ross, who showed out for a few weeks to start the season. And you have Joe Mixon in the backfield. He has a lot of weapons there. So I feel like he's going to start out really well and he's going to do really, really well.
I think I've said enough in our quarterback spot episode about Burrow. I just love him. I think he'll be great.
Yeah, go check that out if you haven't. We broke those landing spots down really, really deep. I believe the running back one did really well, so thank you guys for the support. For me, I think it is real. Like, he is a pretty solid quarterback. He's probably going to be top 12 for me, maybe a little lower. I think quarterback's really good this year, but the one question I have, which is why I was shocked Trent had him ranked so high, is he went from average Joe. He had a season before this where he was just literally, like, I'm not just saying average Joe because his name is Joe Burrow. Like, he was literally average Joe. It was like the most pedestrian quarterback tape, quarterback stats. And he had all these weapons here before. He had Jamar Chase. He had Justin Jefferson as a sophomore. Jamar Chase as a freshman. So he had Clyde Edwards-Helaire even. So, like, I think it's more Joe Brady than Burrow. That doesn't mean Burrow can be a bad quarterback, but just keep it in mind. He's going to a place with weapons. So I think it's a little hyped. I think if Tua was healthy, I'd take him over Burrow, though. It's kind of where I stand on that.
Definitely the better Brady.
Yeah, and not to forget that he could not beat out Haskins for the Ohio State job.
Yeah, that's true. Trent's trying to like bust my balls, but I already deflated his. So, oh, Saint Burn. All right, next question here. Which rookie will make the biggest splash year one? I got this. Whoever has the highest draft capital, I feel like. So whether that's Swift or Taylor, I feel like Swift might actually have the higher draft capital. I see Swift going in mocks ahead of Taylor. I still like Taylor more personally, but I think it could be Swift. I'll take but it could be Taylor if he's drafted round 1. So it depends. Sorry, that's a bad answer.
I think the safest answer is Burrow, because wherever he goes, he will start. But everything else is dependent on a landing spot. It's very difficult to answer it right now.
I'm ready for this AJ Dillon.
I'll give you a generic answer. Whichever running back goes to the Chiefs. But I want to give another position, so I'll give Jerry Jeudy. But I do have a big time sleeper, Denzel Mims.
Oh, okay. I was expecting the
not sleeper anymore. He's not sleeper anymore.
No, not the Snellhen. He is.
But like sleeper wise, as in like guy that you don't think is a top, like 5, 10. Not one guy that you think will go in the top half of the draft or first round.
All right.
He is going first round.
Right, but not the top half.
I mean, Sinai has a photo of Denzel Mims and some lotion.
No. I'm sure he will go first round. Book it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. He's going to go first round, but he's not going top half of the first round.
Okay. All right, moving on here. We're kind of going off for rookie talk. Thank you guys so much for listening so far here. We appreciate it. Another question here from not me, DL Thomas 1212 on Twitter. Our good friend Justin and Buck's friend. That's where the question came from. Should we expect Marquise Hollywood Brown to have a big year this year? So let's start off with the Ravens fan. What do you think, Ravens expert?
Like big, if you mean compared to last year, I think yes, because last year in general the wide receivers did bad, and in general they were down.
No. This was a terrific year for wide receiver. We had Terry McLaurin. We had Deebo Samuel.
No. I'm saying the last year wide receiver scoring was down in general. So this year it's due for a bounce back.
Yeah, but the
but if you look just at the stats, maybe of course he will do better than last year. But I don't think what people are hyping up so much. I'm not that hyped up on Hollywood because he's not the primary target there, and their philosophy is run. The quarterback runs, the fullback runs, the backup quarterback runs. The running back, everyone runs around there, and then whenever they throw to all the weapons. They spread out, so I'm not that high like the market is.
I'm not as high either. I'm a little worried about his health and his low sprank injury. That has some long-term
Nah.
concerns. It just has some long-term concerns. I've heard from some fantasy doctors. I feel like he might be a better real-life player than fantasy football player. Kind of like how we
Yeah.
see how we're kind of talking about Henry Ruggs, kind of like him, kind of like even like John Ross. I think he's gonna have a better NFL career than like John Ross, but
Yeah.
just kind of like their roles aren't the most fantasy producing.
Mm-hmm.
John Ross is a
Yeah.
low bar.
Yeah, I'll say it's not going to be like a huge year, but he'll go over 1,000 yards, over 6 touchdowns, or at least 6 touchdowns, and be a
That's a
top
good
20.
year.
That's a big year,
That's a
man.
good year, but that's not huge.
That's
Like
huge,
like
man.
next, like there's going to be wide receivers with 12, 1,300 yards. I think he just barely breaks 1,000, 6 or 7, maybe 8 touchdowns. So and he'll be in that top 15, top 20 wide receivers, but he's not going to be. It's not going to be a huge year.
Yeah. Okay. I'd be very happy as a Hollywood Brown owner if
Yeah,
that
if he
happens.
cracks 1,000 and
Mhm.
6 to 8 touchdown, that's pretty good to me.
Yeah, pretty good. Moving on here, we have a question from Outside Dash Skirt here on Reddit. Does Josh Jacob catch passes next year? I'll actually start this one off here. I feel like talking a little bit more first. I have 2 points here I want to make. So there was one running back that's gone now. DeAndre Washington went to the rival
Yep.
Chiefs. So yes, more pass catching opportunities kind of open up. He really wasn't being used much though when him and Jalen Richard were all three of them were healthy though. That brings me to a second point. Jalen Richard is still there. They re-signed him. And that was their third down pass catching back, and Jalen Richard is good at that. Like for real life football, he's good at that. So why are they going to take that away from him? But Mike Mayock did come out and say they were purposely not using him much on third down to try to like slowly ease the running back into the system. So I just want owners to keep that in the back of the mind. So I don't know because the GM is saying this, but he's not the head coach, and then it's just kind of like they kept Jalen Richard. Why would you do that if you want Jacobs to be your 3 down back?
I think it was more of a pass blocking thing. He did not learn all the nuances of that, and Mayock is expecting that in this off season he will learn how to pass block better, and then he can be the third, because he was one of the most dynamic pass catching running backs to come out of college in recent years, and they are not giving him pass catching. That's very, very surprising. So I'm pretty sure they signed Jalen Richard as a insurance policy, that what if Jacobs doesn't learn how to catch passes, or if he gets injured, the amount of workload that he has. So I definitely think the pass catching increases by a considerable amount.
I'd say it's going to be more than last season for sure, but I still don't think he cracks that top 12, top 15. I think he's not going to be that PPR value. He's going to put up points on the ground, but he's not going to get you a ton of value in PPR.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because he was a really talented pass catcher coming out of college, honestly. So it kind of sucks that the Raiders could really give him the keys, and he could be like a top 5 fantasy running back, especially if that line plays like they did last year. I don't actually. What happened to Richie Incognito? Sorry to digress here. Does anyone know if he's still in the Raiders?
I think so. I think they are retaining all the offensive linemen.
Can someone
The
look
other
at
thing is that
yeah.
they did
I
not
got
have
you.
a wide receiver, which they will get this year, and that will open. I think he faced a lot of stacked boxes last year, so his rushing will definitely benefit, and maybe receiving too.
Trenton, do you have the answer? I'm just curious. Sorry, side digression.
Yeah, he's still going to. Yeah,
he's on the Raiders still.
He signed a 2-year, $14 million extension with the Raiders.
Okay, I didn't know. I couldn't remember. So, I remember he was a free agent, or was going to be. Okay, moving on here. Sorry. Question from Taco Enabler 2 on Reddit. A few things here. So the 3 running backs we're talking about here are Devin Singletary, Miles Sanders, and David Montgomery. So let's just quickly just kind of fire these off. Highest ceiling, I think it's Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
We all agree on that? Okay. Lowest ceiling for me, David Montgomery.
Yes.
Highest floor, Miles Sanders.
Yes.
I'll go with David Montgomery.
That's true. He does have more touches. I'll give you that. But
I'd say he has the lowest ceiling and the highest floor. You know what you're getting with him.
No, but when you talk about floor, we are talking about fantasy points, and he doesn't catch that many passes. Like For a floor in PPR leagues, it's always the running back that catches passes. That's the floor we always talk about, and that's why you always want to draft and
Mhm.
trade for a pass catching running back, because they give you that safe floor, 4 catches, 4 points right there. So I
Yeah.
think definitely Sanders is the
Mhm.
safe
I think
floor there.
Sanders is safer too now because now he's not in a committee anymore, and we saw how good he was when Jordan Howard was injured. So, all
Mhm.
right, but this one, what could help slash hurt their value in the off season? Well, off season's pretty much over here minus the draft, so I'm only gonna kind of answer this because Singletary, because I think the other two are solid. I don't see their roles changing much. Maybe the Eagles could draft somebody. I don't think so. But
Yeah, that can
Singletary
happen.
does Singletary get competition? I think that's kind of the main part there for me. I don't know
Yeah,
about you guys.
I think he
Mhm.
does. But they
Yeah,
wanted a running back even in free agency, and they are definitely going to draft maybe AJ Dillon. I
yeah. AJ
think
Dillon.
he would be the perfect
Mhm.
complement to Singletary.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor. If they want to go early too, like
I think he's
earlier.
going to the Ravens, man.
You want to show us what jersey, what shirt that is?
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah,
Oh boy.
I don't think they go running back early. I think that they get
Mhm.
definitely go for one late, but I don't think they go one early. And so I
Mhm.
think that he's still going to be that clear lead back,
Hmm.
but he could certainly have a little bit of competition for touches.
All right. Definitely next question here. We have a lot of AJ Brown questions here. Definitely probably one of the
Yeah,
most polarizing. I didn't realize how polarizing he'd be. He put up 1,000 yards his rookie year. Most of those guys who've done that have been great fantasy for their career. But
I don't think he's polarizing. I think he's just very, very hyped, and people are just
mhm.
scared. Should we pay that much,
Okay.
price?
Yep. So DL Thomas 1212 once again asks on Twitter, will AJ Brown regress? Yes, in efficiency, but volume will go up. So I hope, partially because I love AJ Brown so much, but I also do think that they'll kind of offset each other enough to the point where I'm okay with having him in my top 12 dynasty wide receivers, especially because he is only 22, 23. That's so young, and he's already put up 1,000 yards.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
I
think the
agree with you.
stats will be similar. Oh, go ahead, Trent.
I agree with you on the efficiency part, like for the yards.
Mm-hmm.
But I also agree with the touchdowns. I always am bringing up those touchdowns, uh, those scores per touch and stuff. And he had almost 10 touchdowns last season on just under 60 touches. That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
No.
He's not going to score that much again with that few touches. He could get more, but I still don't think he gets quite that much, and his averages are definitely going down.
What about you, Sanan?
Yeah, I have same. I have nothing to add. I think his efficiency goes down, the volume will go up obviously, and I think the stats will be similar. And since the wide receivers were down last year, I think ultimately in the rankings he might go down,
Mm-hmm.
but the stats will be similar.
Here's the thing I think people are confusing with Brown. Brown isn't just based off of that that ranking wherever people are putting him. I've seen him go over Mike Evans. That's a little controversial. I get that, but like the reason why he's going so high is also because he's 20, like 22, 23, and just put up 1,000 yards as a rookie. Like that's where part of the value comes in, knowing that even if the production's going to be lower than some of those counterparts being drafted there, it's the fact that you're going to have them for an extra 2 to 3 years depending on the age we're comparing them with players. Maybe even like a Julio, if someone's drafting Julio early in Dynasty, right? AJ Brown might have like 7 or 8 more years than Julio in his like for your fantasy team. So that's
And
where
he
part of the
fits
value
that
comes.
mold. But
Mm-hmm.
McLaurin also got 1,000 yards, I think,
McLaurin did
but
not
he
get a
doesn't.
thousand yards. He
He did
got
not,
eight
but it
hundred.
was. Oh, really? That was very
800.
low.
It might have been
But
900, but
yeah, could that was close. But he's not built like to someone who can become a stud like Michael Thomas or Julio. But AJ Brown is, and that's why that's the difference between him and others.
all right.
Mhm.
Moving on here. Really good friend of the podcast. Been on a couple times. Question from at your trustier board on Twitter. They do great mock drafts. Check them out. Who would you rather trade for? AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, or Debo Samuel?
I'll go first. I think I'll trade for DK Metcalf. I think he's much
Mhm.
cheaper than AJ Brown. AJ Brown, and I think his ceiling is as good or if not better than AJ
Mm-hmm.
Brown because he has the better quarterback, and
Mhm.
their volume, even if it stays the same, they don't have any more weapons. And the running backs are also not great as Derrick Henry, that they can run over the opponents at will. So for those reasons, I think I will go DK.
Mhm. And I agree with you. I go DK Metcalf, but you look at throughout the season, uh, AJ Brown obviously put up a little bit better numbers on the season, but he also had a lot. He had a lot more opportunity. He was the wide receiver one, whereas DK Metcalf was the second option to Tyler Lockett. So I feel like once Tyler Lockett, if they move on from Tyler Lockett, or even DK Metcalf takes over as the wide receiver one, I feel like he's going to start dominating, and he has that higher upside. And like Sanat said, you can get him cheaper right now, trade price.
Yeah, definitely great point there. For me, you guys kind of said everything I was going to say. I was going to say DK too. I think he's the blend between Debo could have competition. Maybe they draft Henry Ruggs, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy. That hurt Debo a lot. And then AJ Brown just really expensive. So I'd rather have that middle option with the high ceiling of the three. Speaking of kind of high ceiling here, just quick answer here. We already talked about both these guys here. Who do you have being better down the road 5 years from now? DK Metcalf or AJ Brown? I'm still gonna go AJ Brown.
I'll go Metcalf again. I think he's
Mhm.
tied to the best quarterback in the league almost, and that will not change because of the rookie deal. And I'm not sure what will happen in Tennessee with the quarterback situation. So
Mhm.
that's why.
Yeah, agreed on that, and also what I said earlier. I feel like he has that higher upside once he takes over as the top option.
Okay, I'm in the minority. That's cool. It's cool. Question from Dergirot or Nick, great friend of ours, in a couple leagues with us here on Sleeper. How far into the future should I look when making trades? And I came up with an example that he proved up. For example, does a player like AJ Brown being 4 years younger than Kenny Galladay, kind of like how much does that matter for you guys?
For me, it's always 1 year. I
Mm.
just look at players like stocks. I want to buy players who are cheaper, whose values will go up, and sell players whose value will go down. I don't look so much into the future because I keep trading and churning those rosters all the time. That's my philosophy.
Mhm. Yeah, for trades and values, certainly look like short term, like 1 year. But if you want to look as far in the future as you can, don't go past 5 years. Most dynasty leagues don't last that long as is. Like I was in a few leagues this year, like 3 leagues that were startups and got taken down after 1 year because people left.
Yeah.
So a lot of those leagues won't even make it that long. And also, if you aren't contending within the first 5 years, if you don't have a contending team, why are you even trying anymore? So, I mean, unless you have a long-term plan, then there's really no point. But yeah, at most, look 5 years in the future. That's the furthest you want to look.
That's kind of bold for me too. I can't mind 3 years. That's where I look. I'm kind of surprised by it's 1 year. I feel like that's a little too less for me and trends too much. So I'm the happy medium here. Kind of the balance of life, right? For 3 years, so this AJ Brown, like 4 years. Actually, this was kind of a trade I made in a league. I just did a 1-for-1 swap, and I think those two players are still close in value, right? But for me, it's kind of like I do think those 3 years kind of matter, especially if you have a team with a lot of rookie picks that might peak later. Having that player a few years younger who will also hit their peak later might help your ceiling, and we want ceilings here in Dynasty Fantasy Football. So moving on here, Trent already kind of talked about this here, but we have a question from DL Thomas 1212 again on Twitter. Is Tom Brady good or bad for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin? I'll start it off. Mike Evans probably down a little bit. I won't be as much as people like Trenton, for example. Trenton was pretty worried about Mike Evans. I don't think it's gonna be that bad, but I also don't think Chris Godwin will be as high as people think. Just because Tom Brady, as much as he likes the slot wide receiver, Chris Godwin had an insane year already. How much higher can he go than that? And Chris Godwin, for like being an intermediate short range type of guy, he was like ninth in the NFL in deep targets. So it wasn't like he was just the intermediate short range. Like he was being thrown to a lot on deep targets. So and those air yards, those deep targets are like really sticky stats. So I could see and the touchdown efficiency. Like Chris Godwin, I think will more stay the same, but I think it's it's more of like a neutral move, like at its ceiling. I hope that makes sense.
For me, I think whatever happens, I think it will hurt, or I think it will hurt a little for both of them,
Yeah.
because that kind of volume they are not getting with Brady. Because Winston threw 4 touchdowns to the other team, and then he had to make it up for his own team. So he used to throw around. And when people talk about Brady targeting the slot receivers so much, tell me which other receiver was there in New England who was worth so many targets, who was going deep. They did not have anyone. So of course he will throw to his trusted guys in Edelman all the time and the running backs. But that's different in Tampa. They have two very good receivers. And if he is getting time in the pocket and Mike Evans is open, he will throw to Mike Evans. His arm strength has not gone down. It's just that he only throws to the open receivers. Whoever gets open, he'll throw to them. So I'm not down on Evans. If someone is, I'm buying Evans.
Mm. Yeah, you all heard my take earlier.
Okay.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
full on repeat myself, but
Yeah.
good for Godwin, bad for Evans, in my opinion.
All right, awesome. Next question here from also friend of the podcast, JKD Halo, also known as Jared, on Sleeper, asked, so first, and I think only question here I have here that's not fantasy football related. What do you guys think about the NFC South with Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay and Teddy Bridgewater going to Carolina? Who will make the playoffs and who will disappoint? What do you think, Trent?
Playoffs will be the Saints, maybe the Buccaneers, but I think the Buccaneers will disappoint because their projections after adding Brady flew up from how many games did they win last season? Like 7?
6, 7, yeah, 7.
6 or 7, yeah. So I mean, adding one player, no matter how good it is, the difference between Jameis Winston's value and Brady's value, there's definitely a difference, and it's a decent difference, but it's not massive. So just adding Brady alone is not going to add 5, 6 wins onto their total, which they're getting projected by some sources already as being like a 12, 13 win team. Just adding that one thing without adding many other pieces elsewhere is not going to be that huge for them.
I think they're a wild card team, the Buccaneers there. I do think the Saints won the division. But honestly, I think I disagree with you there. And it's not just because I'm wearing a Tom Brady jersey. It's because, like, like statistically, like the numbers, sure. Like Jameis Winston and Tom Brady are pretty close. Even Jameis was probably better, minus the interceptions and maybe the fumbles, right? But Tom Brady won't lose you many games. Jameis Winston will lose you every game, right? I feel like when you play Jameis, it's like ticking against the clock for when he'll like screw up the whole game and throw like 3
Yeah.
picks. Tom Brady will like win you games. So that's why I see them kind of making the playoffs. I feel like they grab a running back so they have a better run game. Their offensive line is still kind of questionable. Their defense always showed potential. I think with Tom Brady, it lets them, other than maybe like a running back or an offensive lineman, not really need to take offense, so they can invest in defense again. And Bruce Arians is a pretty good coach, and Tom Brady just brings a culture. I think Tampa Bay's been missing a culture. And the playoffs have one more extra spot too. Remember, it's because of the new format. So I could even see Atlanta kind of sneaking in too if they can get their defense right. But I do think the Bucks make the playoffs. Maybe 9-7. I think 10-6. That could be good enough to make the playoffs with this new format.
I believe they are at least winning 11 games.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I think you remember what happened with Chargers and Chiefs a couple of years ago when they both were, trying to win the division, and it came down to week 16, 17. I think that might be the case between them and Saints. I think their defensive coordinator is excellent, and that's why the defense will play very well. And Brady is not going to lose you games, as Dylan said.
Yeah.
And they might even win the division. That's what I believe.
Don't sleep on TB12. What can I say? Carolina, I think, will be the worst team in the division, though. I think they're number one pick. We didn't talk about Carolina at all. I just wanted to throw that out there. Question from Taco Enabler 2 here on Reddit. Interesting question. Why are certain people in a league, or in like any league here, kind of like opposed to trading? I get where he's coming from. I mean, I've run into leagues where they just don't want to trade at all, or like they're just inactive. One, if they're inactive, they should probably be kicked unless there's a real life reason, right? I wouldn't want to be in a league with a lot of inactive people. I might have to leave a league or two that I still haven't left. Probably should leave before the draft just because they're not active, right? Activity is really important in a league. But something I feel like people need to keep in mind is kind of like realism here. It's the fact that most of the time, unless they're taking over like an abandoned roster or taking over for a roster, right? They drafted their team. They have emotional values in these players, right? You don't just draft the player you don't like. Like I talked about how I was lower on Eckler. I'm not gonna have Eckler in many leagues, right? Like you draft player, I'm gonna have players I like Juju or like AJ Brown or like Joe Mixon. You know what I mean? Saquon, right? I mean those are big names, but you know what I mean. And maybe a second part to this is kind of look yourself in the mirror. Are you kind of sending like unfair offers? Are they interested, or are you just trying to really like win the trade badly? You got to make it fair.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was cute listening the fair talk from you, Dylan. But but yeah, I
Not as bad
agree
as
with you.
some people here.
Yeah, I think some of the players are just very scared that they are not being taken advantage of, and if they don't have like very good knowledge about the player values, they might just prefer not to trade at all instead of losing a
Hmm.
trade very bad down the road. That might be one of the reasons.
Yeah, I think that the one thing that most people fail to do in leagues, which causes people to not want us to trade, they don't get to know their league mates. You need to go out there and like open up chats with them, talk to them, talk fantasy with them, ask them trade advice,
Buy them a
get them
coffee.
comfortable with you. Get them comfortable with you. If they aren't comfortable with you, they're less likely to deal with you. And so yeah, you have to get them comfortable. You have to work on who they like, who they don't like, and then work from that list of players.
And then rape them.
Yes, that's how I do it.
I mean, I don't know if that was fantasy football trade advice or dating advice here from Love Doctor Trenton Roberts, but
Yeah.
get them comfortable and then pull out the trade rape. Moving on here.
Slides
We're
from
not talking
Rufus,
trade
yeah.
rape here with this next question.
Sorry.
Question from Little Oregon, Big M, on Reddit. I'd like to hear discussion about trade etiquette, such as making the initial offer, negotiation, when to give up, time to respond to an offer, and how many offers are too much for the same player. So, I mean, Love Doctor. I mean, you seem to be pretty good at this whole trade etiquette thing.
I feel like I just covered most of that, but I'll talk on the last few points. You want to respond to the offer. You don't want to let it sit for like a couple days. I mean, whenever I get an offer that I really don't like and I don't want to counter offer or anything, I leave it. I just leave it and let it keep sitting there. And so until they eventually take it down, or maybe I decline it like a week later, that's how they know that I don't want to do anything. But if you really want to deal with somebody, get it within a day. Figure that out. Yes, I know it sounds kind of mean. You just shut up. But
Left him
how
on
many
red.
offers
Trent's
are?
the type of guy to leave a girl on
No one
red,
even
bro.
spoke.
Dude,
You were the one speaking and telling others to shut up.
dude, you're the
No,
type of guy to leave someone on read. You're telling him to leave him on. I'm a
no.
guy. I get left on red all the time. That is the worst thing you can do. Get out of here.
I have a girl. I'm fine. But but how many offers are this? How many offers are too many offers? Did you say for the same player?
Ask
I don't
Jiggy.
know if I get like 5 or 6 offers for one player without me counter offering, it's kind of questionable at that point.
Yeah,
You know?
I would like to add that when you want to trade for a player, look at the trade partner, look at his
Mhm,
team, see
for sure.
what areas he needs help. Don't look for a trade just to benefit you. Make sure that it
Hmm.
benefits their team. Suppose you want a receiver and you look at their team and they really need running backs. Even if you are short at running back, maybe you downgrade your running back and upgrade your receiver, something like that. Make it a
Hmm.
make it a habit that you also think about their team and not just yours.
Well, I
And
don't.
going off of
Yeah.
that goes back to getting to know the person. I mean, once you get to know them, you talk about like who they like on their team, who they don't like on their team,
Mm.
who they like on your team. That can get you little pieces here and there to put together a deal that they like and you like that benefits both sides.
Yeah. For
Or
example, if
doesn't
I have
benefit
AJ
both sides,
Dillon
just my
next year,
side sometimes, but
I'm going to sell AJ Dillon to Trenton for like 4 first round picks.
Yeah, like
Done.
you could take him at Chase Claypool, bro. Like all yours. I'm good.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but
but
great point, Trenton. Great
yeah.
point.
For
I
me,
agree.
it's like a few things here. For me, one, I kind of prefer to like go into the DMs and I kind of ask, like what players are you interested on my team? Like, let's not waste our time. Like, here's some of the players I like on your team, and I kind of want this player. Who do you kind of like on my team? And normally they'll be like, if I want someone like Deontay Johnson, they'll be like, oh, I like OBJ. I'm like, don't do that. Don't be that guy. That's gonna be a waste of time. But one of the things I hate the most, my biggest pet peeve, Justin isn't here tonight, but he is the worst at this, is don't downsell my players. Don't you dare go into my DMs and then be like, oh, Miles Sanders, oh, he's going to be in the committee. Oh my God, like, he isn't that good. He's so raw. Like, people like, why the hell do you want him, bro? Why do you want
Yeah.
him?
Yeah.
And then, okay. And then I try to, like, hype up Miles Sanders. Like, oh, Miles Sanders, he is this, he is that, he is, you know what I mean? Like, if you can downsell your player, I can hype up my player to like infinity and beyond. Call me Buzz Lightyear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't
Yeah.
hold the double standards. Is my point. Try to like think about the other person. So don't come into a trade bashing someone, because one, that gives them the leverage, and two, don't get mad at them. Especially don't get mad at them if you want to like bash their player, and then they try to like talk about the player and you obviously like if you're trying to buy them. So just be fair. I think that's good advice. I mean, sorry you went up infinity and beyond, but. Our next question here, a few more questions left here. Thank you guys so much for listening so far. We have a question here from Camo21Dogs on Reddit. Will Kerryon Johnson ever finish as an RB1 like we thought he could be? Answer is no.
No, I don't believe in the Lions.
No.
I really like him.
I
but
like him
don't
too, but it's the injuries. Trent's
Okay,
camera's
my bad.
spazzing out, and it's the injuries and Matt Patricia. I mean, maybe if Patricia's gone, I could see it, but I feel like they also want to bring in competition. They were interested in Drake. I heard some rumblings about Melvin Gordon. Maybe they draft like a DeAndre Swift or one of these backs. I just
Could be.
it's his health too. It's like he could still be good, but I don't know. Would you guys rather have him or like Darius Geis or Darrell Henderson? Rank those three quickly.
Carry on, guys. Henderson.
For me, I think it's Geis, Johnson, Henderson. It's a little bit different, but I think all three of those players are close. So, how about you?
I'll say it's definitely possible that he could.
That's true.
He could be in that top 12. But the question is, he has the talent, but will he have the health? Because he gets injured a decent bit. And also, there's a ton of other new young talent around the league that just got injected the past few years, even more this year. So you got a lot of names that could be in that top 12. So there's a huge list. I'd say there are 20, 24, 25 guys, running backs in the league that could finish as an RB1 in any given year. And it could be easily them finishing in the RB1 category. But there's so many guys on that list that it's questionable with his health and everything else that he even gets there.
Yeah, I think it's really well said. I don't want to say like no, like it's impossible, but it's like less than like 2%
Yeah,
chance.
exactly.
It's like I wouldn't bet on that. But I already talked about Austin Eckler here, so I'll kind of open it up to you guys here. But question from Kepper14 here on Sleeper: thoughts on Austin Eckler? Buy, sell, or hold? He's a sell for me.
You just stole my answer.
Yeah.
I was going to tell you that don't digress and talk about players that we have to talk later. So yeah, but I totally agree with whatever you said earlier. I'm selling too.
I disagree. I either hold or I buy, because I mean, look at that volume in the first quarter of the season when Melvin Gordon was gone. He was the RB1 over the first 4 weeks. He was that RB1. He was getting insane volume. Melvin Gordon came back, and they tried to limit him, and they tried to work them both in, say, hey, Melvin Gordon's back. It's his show. No, it wasn't. Eckler came out, and in those games that Gordon came back, he still proved that he was going to be the lead back. And then even in a more of a committee role, he still put up fantasy weeks where he went to 20 plus fantasy points a few times. So even if they do bring in a back, I don't think that they're going to bring in a back even that splits the workload as much as Melvin Gordon did from him. So his workload's definitely going to increase, and the volume will increase. He may not be that huge guy like he was over the first 4 weeks, but he'll definitely have a lot of value still.
Yeah.
He
I
should
have 2
finish as an
points there.
RB1.
Go ahead.
2 points there. One, quarterback change. Rivers just check downs to running backs a lot. The second thing is that their O line has improved, and you know that check downs increase if the O line is bad, because the quarterback doesn't have the time for the wide receivers to develop the
Mhm.
routes, and that will happen more this year,
See,
hopefully.
counterpoint. I already made one. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Rookie quarterbacks. They're likely going to bring in a rookie quarterback, right?
Mhm.
They're going to bring in Tua or Justin Herbert, maybe Jordan Love. I highly doubt it, but any of those guys. When you get a rookie quarterback, they don't in their first year, they don't look outside as often. They don't look at the wide receivers as often. They look at the tight ends and they look at the running backs because they want to get acclimated. So his volume in the passing game is still going to be there and it's still going to be great. That offense is going to be similar. So it's still going to have a lot of volume. And I think that you mentioned that the O line got better. So that might drop his volume in the passing game. If anything, that helps him in the running game too. So his
Yes.
running volume will go up and his averages will go up in the running game. And even if it drops a little bit in the passing game, he'll make up for it in the running game.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I get where you're coming from, but I also feel like Tyrod Taylor and Philip Rivers are two completely different like systems. Like the offense is gonna get worse, even with a rookie. Like you have really high expectations for rookie quarterbacks. Like even Kyler Murray. I remember you guys were so confident about him throwing for over 4,000 yards, threw for like 3,500, and he was really good. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So I don't know. I'm not as
I
lofty
have
as
a
that.
follow-up question though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Eckler or Drake in Dynasty?
Drake.
Trenton? I go Drake too.
Same tier.
There you
Okay.
go,
I can
Kenyon
go either
Drake
way.
Trooper.
Let's move
There you
on.
go. There you
I
go.
can go either way.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, question from PM.
I'm an Eckler truther now, okay?
Question from PMC Ready. I'm gonna guess that is redraft value. Redraft here, so important for running backs such as David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell. I don't mind Bell as like my running back, or even DJ as like my running back, like 4 if they're there. But otherwise, I don't like older running backs because I like shooting for upside.
And in
Mhm.
redraft, I'm taking DJ over Bell.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Le'Veon, both of them are gonna have a lot of volume. I feel like Bell's O line improved, but Adam Gase.
Yeah, I know.
They'll both go in the first 5 rounds at minimum. But like you said, you look for those upside players. You look for the younger players, even in redraft, just because they have that higher upside and potential. You know what you're getting with these guys. It's not going to be spectacular, but they're the type of guys that if you have a RB1 that you know could blow up and could also underperform, you want that RB2 or RB3 that could come in and give you consistent production. Those are the guys you look at.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Question here for friend of the show, Titans fan 131 on Sleeper. What do you guys see happening with the Seattle backfield? Rashad Penny tore his ACL. Chris Carson recovering from a hip injury, I believe. And then you have what do you kind of do with those two? And or do you think they draft somebody else? How do we kind of break down this
Yes.
backfield? Let's start off with
I
the kind of
Seattle fan.
half Seattle fan.
Yeah, I think they will definitely draft a running back,
Yeah.
because they were looking to add a running back in free agency, and they could not do that. So and Carson is a free agent next year, I
Yep.
think.
Exactly.
So I'm not, I don't think they will sign him to a contract after that, and then they will bring a younger running back this year, and those two are injured. They'll not be sure if they'll be back to health in the time for the season. So I don't see. I think Carson's value will go much down after this year, and Penny's value is also not that great. I would sell
See,
Carson for sure.
so you bring up good points, and you kind of squashed my points, and now I'm rethinking it all. But
Come
I'll
to the
just say
dark
what I had
side.
initially. I think that Chris Carson is still going to be the lead back, and that Rashad Penny is going to be that change of pace get back. I don't see them really going after a running back in the draft unless it's a later round running back, because they have 2 guys that could. Both those guys can perform as the top option. So, and they have other holes elsewhere that they're going to need to fill in the earlier So I think that they don't go running back early, and therefore their value remains the same. But you also did say that he could be gone after the year, so that's concerning. But for this year only, I think you love those contract year players. You always want to go after those contract year players if you can, because they almost always perform really well in their contract years just to get a better contract. They play to the best they can.
Yeah, maybe in redraft, but then you look at Melvin Gordon, how'd he do?
Yeah.
Look at Le'Veon Bell. Oh wait, he was sitting out the whole year.
And look at the running back talent that is coming in the league. You
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
they will get
Yeah.
another job after this? This year is great. Next year is also good.
Mhm.
Many people will lose jobs. So I'm staying away with from talents who are in their final year, who are not elite, not Joe Mixon or CMC, but who are
Dalvin
not
Cook.
elite,
Yeah.
and
Keep
Dalvin
losing the
Cook and
hammer.
Kamara. But apart from them, I am trying to move them whenever I can.
I think
Yeah,
it's
I still
Seattle's
think
also like a best player available team too. That's what I think matters too, because some of these running backs might
Yes,
slip. So if it comes to that, I think that's why they may grab one early.
and they are also best player for opportunity. They don't care who you are, where you are taken. If you are the best on the team, you get the opportunity.
Yeah.
I still think though that Chris Carson is a really good back. He's not going to catch a lot of passes, but he's a really good grinded out back, and he'll get volume on any team as long as he doesn't go in as a backup option on most any team in the league. He'll get enough volume to still be at least an RB4 after this year.
He was a 6th-round pick too. I would be shocked if they
Seventh,
signed
I
him
think.
7th. Yeah, maybe even be
Mm.
7th, 6th-round pick
Yeah.
late. I think it's 7th. Yeah, I'd be surprised if they signed a 7th-round pick to a long contract, especially a running back with the signing
Yeah.
day. But final question here from C-Town Ball, who's friend of the show, also hasn't been on yet though. Unfortunately, maybe one day we'll see. Where do you guys value Julio Jones? What would you do if you have him? If you don't have him, are you looking to acquire him? No, I do not want to acquire him. He is my dynasty wide receiver 17. I'd rather sell earlier on him than try to sell him to me earlier for Leonard Fournette in a 0.5 12 team dynasty PPR league. I said, get out of town. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not selling Julio because you are not going to get the value that Julio deserves right
That's
now,
true.
and I'm not buying either. If I have him, I'm riding him out, and if I don't have him, and I'm a contender, maybe I'll try to buy. If someone like Dylan who wants to sell him bad, I might get a good deal. But I'm not selling him because no one respects his value right now. Honestly, it's very sad to see.
Yeah, I can't sell him by the way because I've already sold him if I had him because I knew this was gonna happen with the age thing, so I tried to sell him as quickly as I could, like last
But he's
offseason.
elite, man. I
He is
think he still
elite.
has 2 to 3 years. If you are contender,
That's
he
fair.
will help you a ton.
But he is better in like he's not like a bad fantasy asset, but like he's also better in real life than he is in fantasy. He's one of those type
Are you
guys.
crazy? He has been
He is
top five for the past 5 years, man. He
he
has
is
been
the
top five
best
wide receiver.
real life wide receiver, but that does not mean he's the best fantasy wide
Fantasy.
receiver.
I'm talking about fantasy.
No matter what, my point's true because he's the best real life wide receiver, and he's not the best fantasy wide receiver. He's not the number
Why?
one. You have Julio Jones, your number one dynasty wide receiver.
No. He has
Exactly.
been the
Boom. There's my point. Thank you.
dude. Let me speak, man.
I'm just
I'm just
messing.
saying
I'm
that he has been
messing.
he has been the top 5 wide receiver for the past 6 years. Why is he not good at fantasy? In fantasy,
I said he's better in real life. You can still be good.
That-
Like, true, right?
you are saying he's not good in fantasy.
No, I'm not
That's
saying
not
he's not
true.
good. I'm saying he's better in real life than he is at fantasy. Listen, I can be dumber than Albert Einstein, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm dumb. Albert Einstein's that number one guy, right? I could still be pretty smart, 4.8 in high school. You know, what
Oh
can I
my
say?
gosh.
My God.
Not to
feel
get
like
a
I'm in a
lawyer on
room.
you.
I feel like I'm in a room with Colin Cowherd and Stephen A. Smith just going at it.
Can I be the Stephen A. Smith burner account? I'd rather be the burner than the main.
But yeah, so not you took the words right out of my mouth. He's still has 2 to 3 elite years left in him, but he is definitely older, and you don't want to buy somebody that's older. You definitely don't buy somebody that's older. So you don't get the value, like you said. So you're definitely going to want to hold him and hope that you're contending. If you're not contending, see if you can sell him to a contender that could use him for the next few years, get decent value. But if you're contending, you're not going to buy him or sell him because he won't be that long-term asset.
And if you are selling, sell in season, because at that
Mhm.
time people will see what he is doing and his value will rise. During off season, everyone just looks at the age. Everyone
Mm.
forgets the stats from the past years.
That's true. Definitely best to sell
Yep.
veterans in season. I agree with that. But I think that's all the questions. Thank you so much to everybody for submitting questions.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. We'll probably do another one of these probably after the draft, maybe before the regular season starts. So if you guys enjoy it, please leave a like. It lets us know that you guys like this type of content. Likes are really important for us because, for example, our mock drafts do very well, so we know we need to do more of those soon. But with that being said, we're all out of time here. Thank you guys so much. I'll let the outro take us out, and have a fantastic rest of your day, rest of your night, listeners, viewers, no matter who you are. I hope you stay safe, keep your social distance, and just wash your hands.
And shout out to the players from my league, Titans, Philly, and Creedy, and who was it? That's all. And Chalupa.
Mm. And thank you, Mom and Dad.
Thank
Mom
you,
and
everyone who
Dad.
submitted the questions to me.
Mom and Dad. Are you getting any Nobel Prize here?
I don't know.
Or
I
as
just thought we
Oscar?
were thanking people.
All right, have a great one, guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. Feel free to leave feedback, subscribe, or check out our previous content. And remember, have a fantastic rest of your day.